So the pastor pulls me in his office and he's like, hey man, I just been talking about it, and the channel you have, your podcast, your YouTube and all that stuff, it just doesn't align with who we are theologically. And so we're going to let you go. And I'm like, what? Now, mind you, no prior conversation about this at all. Now, when I got hired, I was very upfront with him and I said, look, I have this YouTube channel. It wasn't as big as it is now.
Yeah.
I have a podcast. We weren't on TikTok or anything yet.
No.
And barely posting on Instagram because it's just evolved into that now.
Yeah.
But we were very visible. Like we had stuff we were doing and not super different theologically from what we're doing now. If anything, we've just kind of expanded that. But I don't think we've done anything drastic theologically since that moment. Just kind of built on what we've been doing. And so when I was hired by that church, I was very upfront and I said, hey, I have this. I sent him the link. I need to make sure you're okay with this because I don't want this to be an issue down the road. And I think for some people, it could be. So I kind of threw that ball in his court, which for me was a dangerous decision because it could have meant me not getting hired.
Yeah.
But I knew that I'd rather have it out there than for him to find it 6 months down the road and then it just be a big explosion and a big issue.
Yeah.
So he looked at the channel like right when I got hired and he's like, yeah, like obviously we don't agree all, theologically, but it's not a big deal. And I was like, yeah, that's a big part of ministry for me and my wife, what we do outside of the church. I have zero plans on bringing any of that into the church theologically, or using the church as a platform for the stuff we're doing. And we never did. In 2.5, 3 years, we never once used that church as a springboard for what we're doing here. We decided we want to grow organically. And like I said, our theologies were different. And so I didn't think it would be a good place to house that kind of theology and just kind of kept them separate. We had two ministries and we kept them completely separate from one another.
Yeah.
And so I was like, well, you said, when he's firing me, I'm like, well, you said that this was okay, right when I get hired. And he's like, I know I said that. And he's like, but we've basically changed our mind. And I'm like, so, okay, I understand that you've changed your mind, but we haven't, there's been no conversation. There's been no communication of any issues at all. In fact, 2 weeks ago, you told me how good worship service was, and I'm like, so this is just totally out of the blue. And now we're not even having a conversation about it and trying to meet halfway and communicate. You're just telling me you don't want me here anymore. And he's like, yes. I'm like, okay. And so I looked at him. Now, for those of you who do or do not know, this is not my first rodeo. Not the first time I've been fired from a church. Now, this is the first time I've been fired from a church for this reason, for theological issues and having another ministry on the side that they just didn't agree with. And I looked at him, I was like, well, let me guess. I was like, so you're going to make me sign a piece of paper and you're going to give me X amount of severance and you're going to tell me not to come back even next week. And he looked at me kind of paused and stunned and he's like, yeah. I was like, yeah, man, I've done this before. And so he gave me the piece of paper. It was a month severance, which isn't that great. And it basically, the piece of paper said that, I can't say any defaming remarks about them. Obviously, I can't lie about the situation. But I did ask him specifically. I said, hey, when I'm asked, I need to know that it's okay to say exactly what you're saying to me here. And he's like, yeah, that's fine. I was like, and I asked him probably 3 or 4 times. I'm like, I need to quadruple check that me telling the truth about what you're saying right here is totally fine. And he's like, yes, that's fine. But inside the contract, it said that if I broke any of the rules that they had within that month, I wouldn't get the severance. Little stuff was worked in the contract. I can't steal anybody away from their church, which the church was an hour away from us. So that's not even an option. There was a bunch of little stuff that was not applicable to our situation. So I signed the people. What choice did I have? He wasn't giving me an option to stay or try to work this out. It was just you're gone. Here's a severance check. Sign this piece of paper. Okay. So I just packed up my stuff and gave him a little fist bump on the way out. Wasn't a jerk. Now, I did say some things in the middle of all of this. I was like, this is what my channel has been based around the whole time. it is about religion pushing people around and bullying them. And I said, every single church I've ever been to, including this one, has used the word family. We're family. We're family. Family doesn't just push someone out the door on a moment's notice.
Yeah.
They just don't do it.
And not speak to them.
And not speak to, right. And cut them off and make them sign a gag order like that. That's I've never met a family who's done that.